Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Today we are discussing all the Week 18 action, the final week of the 2026 regular season of the Pro Football Sim over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So, as usual, we'll cover the stats and summaries for all of our Week 18 games, culminating in my choices for the Players of the Week. We'll do a quick injury update focusing on the teams who still have games left to play in the season and look at our final standings for 2026. We'll continue our feature on extensions covering both weeks 17 and 18. And then we will preview the 6 games coming up for Wildcard Weekend. So let's go ahead and dive in. There was an epic offensive clash in the AFC East between the Dolphins and the Jets, with the Dolphins avenging their earlier loss with a 41-30 victory. Miami started off strong on their very first drive with Dean Hammonds finding Kenny White for 25, and then they connected again for a 34-yard touchdown. The Jets would respond with Jesse Knoll finding his tight end Mateo for 18, his other tight end Ludwig for another 18, and then Knoll would carry it 35 yards for a touchdown, tying the game at 7. But Miami's next drive, Hammonds would find Sanders for 31 and ultimately set up Juan Moore for a 1-yard touchdown run, taking the lead. The Jets' next drive, they went 53 yards in 11 plays, and that one ended with a 29-yard Jordy Breland field goal, cutting the lead to 14-10. Miami would respond in kind, Hammonds bombing it to Kenny White for 51. That led to another short Moore touchdown run. The Jets, though, actually on the Jets' next drive, Knoll would throw an interception to William Redmond, which would lead to a Dolphins field goal and a 24-10 lead. But the Jets would recover, Knoll going deep to Suarez for 56, then finding Will Huber for a 21-yard gain, and then that led to a Michael Elias 2-yard touchdown run, bringing the gap to 7. Then it was Hammond's turn to throw an interception. He was intercepted by Roger Swimmer. The Jets drove down to the Miami 16-yard line looking to possibly tie the game with a score, but Knoll threw his second interception of the day to William Redmond, and the Jets were left with no points there. Hammonds took over where he left off, hitting Kenny White for 25, but that was actually wiped out by an illegal block penalty. So Miami would drive all the way down to the Jets' 4-yard line, but they were unable to convert, and then time actually ran out in the first half, so they did not get any points from that either. So an entire first half ended with the score 24-17 and no punts. It was a bunch of scoring drives, 3 turnovers, and the end of half. In the third quarter, the Jets were finally forced to punt, but the Dolphins actually blocked it. Miami would then drive down to the Jets' 1-yard line, but Hammonds was sacked on 2nd and goal, and they were stopped short on 3rd and goal, so that led to a short Genter field goal. After a Jets field goal in kind, Hammonds then found Ramirez for a 21-yard gain and then a 44-yard touchdown, increasing the Dolphins' lead to 34-20. We then had a trade of punts, the first one for the Dolphins and the first successful one for the Jets. And the Jets would go for a field goal, making it 34-23. But then Hammonds hitting Ramirez for gains of 22 and 19, then found a GFR for a 16-yard touchdown, made the lead 18. Jets weren't done, though. They would drive 66 yards in 10 plays, with Ponce de Leon getting his first NFL touchdown on a 15-yard run, which brought it to 41-30. And the Jets would then force a second Dolphins punt of the day, but the Jets would go 4 and out on their final drive. Dolphins took over, ran out the clock, and that was game. So only 4 attempted punts in the entire game, 71 combined points. Dean Hammonds, 455 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. He threw 210 yards and a score to Kenny White, 134 yards and a score on just 6 catches to Jamie Ramirez. William Redmond had a couple of picks as well. And the Dolphins finished the year 15-2 with this victory over the Jets. Cincinnati got a victory over the Steelers' backup. Kyle Higbee got the start for the Steelers. It was the Pittsburgh special teams, though, that got the early play, blocking a Cincinnati punt in the first quarter and recovering it at the 11-yard line. They would then gain 9 yards in 3 plays and settle for a short field goal. Cincinnati then drove to the Pittsburgh 38-yard line, key play being Sean Curvin finding David Taylor for an 18-yard gain. But on 4th and 8 from the 38-yard line, Bengals passed up the 55-yard field goal and elected to punt. Later in the first quarter, a Sean Curvin interception to Sherman Leclerc set up the Steelers at the Cincinnati 47-yard line. That would lead to another field goal attempt, which was successful, 6-0. Cincinnati, on their next drive, Sean Curvin carried the ball 3 times for 25 yards, leading the offense into field goal range, and they got a 48 field goal, cutting the lead in half. Then in the second quarter, Charles Aarons for the Bengals had a 35-yard punt return, getting them great field position. That led to another field goal attempt, but the 46-yard attempt was blocked. So second blocked kick allowed by the Bengals special teams, and the Steelers were still leading 6-3. In the third quarter, Kyle Higbee was intercepted by Pablo Jovel of the Bengals at the Pittsburgh 29, another golden opportunity that led to another miss, as they missed a 46-yard field goal, got no points. Cincinnati would miss a 39-yarder later in the quarter. So ultimately 1 for 4 on field goals, with 2 misses and 1 blocked, and a punt blocked as well. And yet, in the fourth quarter, so Steelers weren't able to get anything done on offense, and then David Taylor broke off a 54-yard run. And then on 3rd and 10, Curvin found James Smith for an 11-yard gain to keep the drive going. And then Curvin ran it in himself from 2 yards out, giving the Bengals the game's lone touchdown and the win. So Bengals win this one 10-6. Sean Curvin, only 50 passing yards on 6 completions with an interception, but 13 carries for 80 yards and a score. David Taylor over 100 yards as well, thanks to that big run in the fourth quarter. And the Steelers fall to the Bengals, although the Steelers do still win the AFC North. The Broncos dealt a big blow to the Raiders' playoff hopes, beating them 26-13. James Hickson was intercepted on the second play of the game, which led to a Broncos field goal. Later in the first, Hickson was sacked by Garban and fumbled, recovered by Philip Nagel. That led to a Peter London 3-yard touchdown run, increasing the Broncos' lead. Raiders would finally get on the board in the second quarter, with Hickson finding blank for a 15-yard gain, and then another 15 on a face mask call at the end of that play. He would then find blank for another 16-yard connection later in that drive, setting up Milner for a 4-yard touchdown run, bringing the Raiders to within 10-7. But the Broncos responded, London finding Raymond Stelly for a 25-yard gain, plus another 15 for a roughness call on Cordova. So things get a little chippy here in this game. That led to a Broncos field goal, making it 13-7. And that score would hold for a very, very long time. The next time anyone found the end zone was all the way in the fourth quarter, after Denver stopped the Vegas Raiders at around midfield. Raiders turned the ball over on downs. Broncos took a short field, went 49 yards in 9 plays, London ultimately finding Stelly for a 7-yard touchdown pass. That made it 26-10. The Raiders then drove to the Broncos' 25-yard line. When they hit 4th down, there was 2:05 on the clock. And so with more than 2 minutes, the go-for-it logic didn't trigger. Raiders kicked a field goal, but it was still a 2-score game. They kicked the ball back to the Broncos. Broncos ran out the clock, and that was it. So Peter London, 225 yards and a passing touchdown, had a rushing touchdown as well. Philip Nagel, 4 sacks, and Russell Garban, 3 sacks, leading the way for that Broncos defense, holding the Raiders to just 1 touchdown in the victory. The Chargers won 22-10 over the Chiefs' backup, giving the Chargers the win they needed to sneak their way into the playoffs. Had an interesting situation in the first quarter when we opened the scoring with Benedict DeLuna returning a punt 93 yards for a touchdown. Chiefs celebrated the early lead. But it wasn't long for this world because Richard McGuire took the ensuing kickoff 94 yards for a touchdown, tying the score at 7. In the second quarter, McGuire would get another good return, this one a punt return to midfield that would ultimately set up the Chargers for a 43-yard field goal. They would lead 10-7. But Kansas City's Sergio Guice would respond with a 44-yard run, which was most of his yards on the day. And that would set up the Chiefs for a field goal, tying the game at 10. But the Chargers would pull away in the second half, Nelson kicking 4 field goals in that half alone, including 49 and 52-yarders. And Chiefs backups weren't able to get any offense going, so it was the Chargers who win 22-10. Josh Nelson, the hero of the day, 5 for 5 on field goals, including a 52-yarder. McGuire, as we said, with that kickoff return touchdown. Chiefs' one touchdown was a Benedict Dillon punt return. So don't quote me on this. This might be the highest scoring game we've ever seen without an offensive touchdown. 32 points thanks to 6 field goals and 2 special team scores. The Bears won their 8th straight game to end the season, beating the Packers 20-12. Packers had locked up the division, but were playing their starters in an attempt to improve their playoff seed. Garibay threw an interception on the very first play to strong safety Calvin Preston. Gerald Lewis took over a great field position, found his tight end Evans for 20, and then passed to Jonathan Watson for a 2-yard touchdown. Next Green Bay drive, Garibay went 3 for 3 for 42 yards, but after a short completion to Ramek Phelps, Phelps was hit by Preston, who forced a fumble, and the Bears were able to recover. Later in the first quarter, Garibay found Phelps for 15, and leading to a 14-yard touchdown pass to Junior Ogba. Packers would miss the extra point, though, so it would be 7-6. Calvin Preston got a third takeaway. This one, another interception just before the half, but Chicago ran out of time and was unable to add to their score before halftime. Into the third quarter now, Lewis found Stanley Segovia for a 39-yard pass, which set up a decent-length field goal and a 10-6 lead for the Bears. On Chicago's next drive, Alex Harris ran it for 22, Gerald Lewis ran for 34, and then Harris again from 2 yards out scored, increasing the lead to 17-6. And that held until the fourth quarter, when Lewis had another big throw. This one to Jonathan Watson for 34, so both Bears backs having great receiving days out of the backfield. Bears drove all the way to the Packers' 1-yard line, but give the Green Bay defense credit. They held them on 3 consecutive plays, and the Bears settled for a short field goal. Then Green Bay would drive 64 yards with Garibay 14-yard completions to Ogba and to Phelps. And then finally finding his fullback Hathaway for a 8-yard touchdown pass. Made it 20-12. Packers would play the analytics, go for 2. They would not get it. Chicago got the ball back and wasn't able to run out the clock. They were punting with 2:47 to go. But after getting a single first down, Green Bay turned the ball over on downs. They got no farther. They didn't pass midfield. And, were unable to score on that last drive. And the Bears ended up with the victory. Gerald Lewis, 262 passing yards and a touchdown. Calvin Preston, 3 takeaways with 2 interceptions and a forced fumble. Garibay, 181 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. As the Bears, again, win their 8th in a row and streak their way into the number 7 seed in the playoffs. The Rams beat the Seahawks 30-17. So Seahawks were hoping for a win and a Bears loss to sneak their way into the playoffs. Neither one of those occurred. Jeremiah West threw an interception on Seattle's first drive to Ramon Newton. Newton returned the interception to the Seattle 20-yard line. And then a few plays later, Avila found his tight end Slamba for a 2-yard touchdown. Later in the first, it was Avila's turn to throw an interception, this one to Daniel Mendoza. Seattle drove the ball all the way down to the Rams' 3-yard line, but they were stopped on 3rd and goal and kicked a field goal, just getting 3 points out of that. The Rams would respond with Avila going 5 for 5 for 62 yards on the next drive alone, including a 9-yard touchdown pass to Baldwin. They missed the extra point, but they would be up 13-3 at that point. Then, still later in the second quarter, Avila finds Anthony Larry for 19, Scott Baldwin for a gain of 14, and then his tight end, Slamba, for a 7-yard touchdown, increasing the lead to 20-3. Seattle drove down to the Rams' 21-yard line, and with time running out in the first half, attempted a 38-yard field goal, which missed. So no points for the Seahawks on that. Then another great opportunity in the third quarter when Brandon Schroeder forced Scott Baldwin to fumble at the Rams' 29-yard line. Unfortunately, the Rams fell on it, and Seattle was not able to capitalize on the forced fumble. Later in the third, Seahawks did finally get into the end zone, West finding Allen for 18, and then DuVernay Tardif for a 17-yard gain. Finally, he completed to Joe Edmonds in the end zone for an 11-yard touchdown, bringing it to 23-10. And then Seattle would get a stop, get the ball back, but then they went 3 and out. And on the ensuing possession, the Rams drove down the field, Avila finding Dawson for a 1-yard touchdown. They made it 30-10 with under 9 minutes to go, and the Rams cruised from there. So Philip Avila, 333 yards and 3 touchdowns, including 122 yards to Anthony Larry on 7 catches. Gary Wheeler for the Seahawks had a fantastic day with 6 sacks. Daniel Mendoza defended 3 passes and had an interception, but it was the Rams who came out on top in this one. But the game of the week absolutely belonged to the Titans and the Jaguars, who were playing a winner-take-all game for the AFC South. Titans ultimately came out on top, 22-21. Jacksonville started off great. They had a 13-play drive, including a pass from Rivera to Perez for a 13-yard gain to convert a 3rd and 9. And then Rivera threw to Peterson for a 4-yard touchdown to start the scoring. The Tennessee's Ray Thompson would return the kickoff to midfield. That would lead to a Yob 32-yard kick. And then late in the first quarter, Joseph Cale of the Titans had a 30-yard run. Ultimately, Titans drove down to the 1-yard line, and then Cale was able to punch it in from there, giving Tennessee its first lead at 10-7. Going to the second quarter now, Jacksonville had a 2nd and 1 at the Tennessee 42-yard line. It really looked like they were set up great to at least tie, if not take the lead. But consecutive tackles for loss, one by Garrett Smith and then another by Robinson Terrell on third down, ended that drive in a punt. No points for the Jaguars. Tennessee then took that punt, drove 11 yards, including 6 consecutive runs by Will Outman, to kick another field goal, a 43-yarder. They would go up 13-7. Then in the third quarter, Barry Madruga took a punt 84 yards to the house, and the extra point gave the Jaguars back the lead, 14-13. Going to the fourth quarter now, Rivera found Barry Madruga for 23, and then hit Hugh Kahn for a 29-yard gain, and then he and Kahn would connect again on a 5-yard screen for a touchdown, making it 21-13. But it was still a one-score game. 8 points could have tied it. So Tennessee got driving. They got all the way to the Jacksonville 29-yard line. But with 9 minutes to go, they would kick a field goal, cutting the lead to 5. On Jacksonville's next drive, Rivera was sacked by Brian Power, which helped Tennessee force Jacksonville to go 3 and out. The ensuing possession, Joseph Cale had a 26-yard run that got Tennessee into the red zone, and that set up another short Yob field goal, his 4th of the day, making it 21-19 with 5 minutes and 14 seconds to go. Jacksonville would get 1 first down on their next drive, with Rivera finding his tight end Perez for a 12-yard gain. But then on 1st and 10, he was sacked for a big loss, and ultimately Jacksonville had to once again punt the ball back to Tennessee, and Thompson would return it all the way to the Tennessee 48-yard line with just over 3 minutes to go. So then, down by 2 with their season on the line, Titans handed off to the NFL's rushing leader, Joseph Cale. He got a 27-yard gain. Then Outman ran for 3. Then Devin Cozart ran for 11 to get them into the red zone. And then 3 plays later, Yob kicked his 5th field goal of the day from 21 yards out, putting the Titans up ahead 22-21 with a minute 20 to go. Jacksonville got the ball back off the kickoff, tried a screen to Hugh Khan. That failed. He lost 6 yards. Rivera threw 2 more incompletions. And then on 4th and 16, Jaguars unable to convert, turned the ball over, and the Titans would hold on to win. So, for the 3rd time in 4 weeks, Richard Yob kicks 5 field goals, literally kicking the Titans into the playoffs. Will Outman had just 95 yards, although he was 15 of 20 passing. He added 53 rushing yards, Joseph Kale had 135, and to score, Garrett Smith with a couple pass breakups and that big sack. James Rivera, 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hugh Khan, 99 yards and a touchdown. But the Titans getting it done with defense and special teams. 3 field goals and 2 critical stops in the 4th quarter. And the Titans are going to the playoffs for the 5th consecutive year. They are your AFC South champions after beating the Jaguars 22-21. As for the rest of the Week 18 scoreboard, Buffalo beat New England 41-20. New England absolutely securing that number 1 overall pick. Yusei Asensio, who's really come along in the second half of the season, 37-54, 428 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Cleveland beat Baltimore 20-14. Defensive end Brian Luddy became, I believe, the first defensive lineman to ever have 2 interceptions in a game. Washington beat the Giants 47-3. Morrison 25-36, 336 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Dallas beat Philadelphia by a final score of 38-18. Celio Fuentes 25-30, 236 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Atlanta beat Tampa Bay 13-3 in a close defensive struggle. Rashawn Lyons 20-38, 188 yards, passing touchdown, and a pick. Carolina beat the Saints 47-20. Link was 28 of 42, 363 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Detroit scored 24 points in the first quarter, and then cruised to a victory over Minnesota 37-10. Randall Hansen was 25 of 29, 232 yards, a passing touchdown, and then had 67 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on 11 carries as well. San Francisco beat Arizona 21-9, San Francisco adding to their franchise high win total. Romero 14-24, 120 yards, passing touchdown, 47 rushing yards on 13 carries for Romero as well. And then Indianapolis played their way out of the number 2 overall pick on Sunday Night Football in dramatic fashion. Glenn Brandt 3 of 3, including a game-winning 34-yard field goal as time expired, leading Indianapolis past division rival Houston 16-13 in the final game of the regular season. So, for my players of the week, it was a great week for quarterbacks with Dean Hammonds, Yusei Asensio, and Dakota Link all going over 350 passing yards with 4 passing touchdowns. Randall Hansen with only 4 incompletions and then 3 total touchdowns as well gets a nod from me. Nagel of Denver with 4 sacks. Gary Wheeler with 6 sacks. Keith Jackson 4.5 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks. Jason Smothers continuing to live up to his name for the Cowboys with 5 passes defended. And then Calvin Preston with his 3 takeaways, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble for the Bears. So congratulations on these 9 players on being named my Players of the Week for Week 18. As for an injury update, I've cut this list down to just the players on playoff teams. We have William Owens with a groin injury, Matthew Campbell with a meniscus bruise, Nolan Moscott with a dislocated foot, all of them expected to miss significant time and likely out for the season unless one of their teams makes the championship game. Daniel Ennis III out with a separated shoulder. That should be just a single week, but the Steelers will miss him against the Chiefs in the wildcard weekend. So here are how we ended things in the AFC. Broncos and Dolphins finishing 15-2. The Broncos were responsible for one of the Dolphins' losses, so they get the number 1 seed based on head-to-head. They will get a first-round bye and home field advantage in the playoffs. Dolphins are the 2 seed. Tennessee gets a 10-win season, hops up to the number 3 seed, getting ahead of the Steelers on conference record with 9 conference wins compared to 7 for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh dropping to 10-7 after losing that finale to the Bengals. So the Steelers will be the 4 seed. They will host the Chiefs next weekend. Chiefs as the best wild card. And then the Jets get in with a 10-win season on conference record, having an extra conference victory over the Chargers and Raiders. Chargers and Raiders split their own series 1 game apiece, but the Chargers have the better division record, so they finish ahead of the Raiders. So the Jets at 6 will play against the Titans. Chargers will go to Miami to face the Dolphins. And in the NFC, we maintained our 3-way tiebreaker at the top, and since not all teams have played each other, we go to conference record where the Rams finish ahead. With an 11-1 conference record, Rams have the number 1 seed, first round bye and home field advantage. The Commanders are at number 2. They will host the streaking Bears, who again have won 8 in a row. Panthers at number 3 will host the Lions, and then Packers will host the Cowboys. And so yeah, all of it comes down to conference record at the top 3. Rams with 11 conference wins, Commanders with 10, and the Panthers with 9. So here is the draft order for the top 18 picks. These are all of the non-playoff teams and how we go. Again, Indianapolis dropping to 4 and Cincinnati to 5 with those regular season victories at the end. That pushes Baltimore up to 2 behind the 1-win Patriots, and then Arizona goes up to 3. The Rams will be picking 6th. They have Houston's first after a trade last year. And then Detroit has Tampa Bay's first as a result of the Kingery trade. So Detroit, despite being a playoff team, will be picking 9th. Minnesota, the New York Giants, and New Orleans Saints round out the top 10. San Francisco and Atlanta the following at 11 and 12. So a lot of extensions to cover over the last 2 weeks. I won't go over absolutely all of them because there's a lot of names. But of those to point out, Dallas finally reversing their luck, going to 100% value to nab people like Alex Henderson, Antonio Arellano, So both of those receivers coming back for Dallas. They also get Kevin Escobar back, 92 overall offensive tackle. Dolphins get a couple of their linemen back. Baltimore, Cam Wentz, and Ryan Dunn, both 25 years old, are coming back. Dunn with a nice big 26 value contract. Definitely the highlight of this group. On the defensive side of the ball, big story is Michael DeWitt with the highest value for a non-quarterback I think we've seen in this extension period and are probably likely to see. We don't have the exact details, but I can tell you that 35 was his 100% threshold for value, and his AAV at 100% was $14 million a year, which is what you're seeing for David Cunningham. And it's also what New Orleans paid to Dyson in free agency. So I think DeWitt is another member of that $14 million a year edge rushers club with that big contract. Christian Pilardi signed a deal for 5 years, just short of $50 million with the Eagles after many rounds of negotiation. Value comes out closer to 24, but as for actual dollars, it's just shy of 50. Preston Miller coming back for the Saints. Then on the defensive side, Dallas is bringing back Matuk and Mendez, getting both of them to re-sign. And then Ramon Fry, Houston posted the details of his. It's a 5-year deal with just shy of $8 million a year on average. So 5 years, $39.5 million in total, moving him into the top 5 of paid free safeties as well. A big payday for Manish Watson as well, 22 value for that. The first of, well, not the first, but another one of those big strong safety names where at the top of that position group are all eligible for extensions. So he will be back for Green Bay, 87 overall, entering his age 31 season. Some declinations. Tim Guerra of Detroit will be entering free agency after he passed on his third option Miami has indicated they are going to franchise tag Jamie Ramirez, so he will stay on for a single more year after negotiations broke down there. And then Kimiko Allard still in negotiations with the Seahawks. On the defensive side of the ball, Elliot Grossman and Robert Kennedy both entering free agency after making 3 declinations with their respective teams. That's the Cowboys and the Titans specifically. And then lastly, I've thrown together kind of a watch list. These are some of the, not just the highest overall players, but these are all players who have had positive progressions last year, so they're not yet on their regression. They're not yet at prime age. I mean, they might have hit prime age this year. We don't know. But still, that means the way the retirement options work, even if they were to hit prime age this year, you're still looking at probably 2 to 3 years and very likely 4. So these are all guys that, regardless of their age, could be veteran players well into their 30s, and are still awaiting extensions from them. So Carolina in particular has 3 linemen of 80 plus overall who are age 28. That's Mendenhall, Eggleston, and Whitaker. Dallas has Cecilio Fuentes. We have not seen them reach out to him, so we'll see if they resign him or he enters free agency. Also, their 89 overall kicker, Michael Cox, will be eligible for free agency if he does not get an extension. Robert Anderson is the oldest on this list, but again, I think he went +4 last year, so possibly very high prime age for Anderson, as an 85 overall could make him a very valuable asset to any franchise. Also, William Chittum, the 93 overall guard for Tampa Bay, in the last year of his contract as well. On the defensive side, Jan Miller is a big name that pops out to me, the way he's been playing with Kansas City. And then some excellent defenders from Pittsburgh with Von Johnson on that defensive line. And then their safeties, Gomez Rodriguez and Cook, both in contract years as well. Also got to call out Eric Simon, Dallas, especially now losing a Grossman, their other tackle, to free agency. Might be more inclined to see what Simon wants and to give Simon what Simon says. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Simon's entering his age 31 season, but again, positively progressed last year. He's an 87 overall. Definitely could be a high-quality veteran for years to come. So these are 14 of the names that I am watching as we get into the playoffs. We'll continue to run extension syncs every week. We'll see if any of these guys get offers, what they sign for, if they do sign, and if not, if they enter free agency. That'll certainly be something to talk about when free agency starts in the new league year. We're still waiting time slots on these games, but for next week, as I mentioned, Chargers are going to Miami to face the Dolphins. Jets are at Tennessee, and Kansas City is at Pittsburgh. These are all brand new matchups. These did not occur in the regular season. So be very excited to see how that goes. And then waiting is the number 1 seed Denver Broncos. Just a reminder, NFL does not do true brackets. The lowest seed remaining goes to face number 1. So if the Chargers were to win, they would go to Denver. If the Jets were to win, they would travel to Denver, assuming the Chargers did not win. Whatever the lowest seed remaining is will go to Denver. And the other 2 teams would play with the home team being the higher seed. In the NFC, number 7 Chicago is taking that win streak to Washington. A tough test facing the Commanders. Detroit is at Carolina, and Dallas is at Green Bay. Unlike the AFC, all 3 of these games are rematches. Of course, Washington and Chicago was all the way back in week 1, in which Washington had a resounding victory there, but a lot's happened since then. Detroit beat Carolina 27-24 in week 3. So we'll see if they can pull off another upset. And then Green Bay beat Dallas 34-25 in week 14. So that one's a little more recent. So it'll be interesting to see if Green Bay can continue their winning ways, or if Rocket can dial up a winning game plan and get Dallas to advance in the playoffs. And awaiting all of them are the number 1 seed LA Rams, resting with a week off with home field advantage. But yeah, 6 incredible games with 12 great teams. I hope you'll stick around next week to check on those. But that is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL show. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. And as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.